If there were a place in the world where you could store and protect the truth, it might be deep in the Rockies, in a field, on a ranch, in a silo, where an American patriot tells you what keeps him awake at night. Now, here is Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix and words from the Silo.
Welcome, folks. Another episode of Words from the Silo. You know, there's been a lot happening the last few months. Yeah. Since the last election. Was that 5 months now? Boy, time flies. And you know, the thing that's I've said this several times, it's keeping me up, is not so much what's happening, but it seems that half the population agrees with the dumb things that they're doing. And they're doing it in the name of partisanship politics. And by God, I can remember when Pueblo here is a very strong Democrat. Now, this is not a political show. The Center for American Values sponsors us, and But we got to address politics in general, and I remember growing up as a kid in Pueblo, very strong Democrat town, mainly because of unions and that sort of thing. Okay, and I guess I remember campaigns and people knocking on doors and lots of signs in people's yards. But when the election was over, the signs went away, and you were friends with your neighbors. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's not that way anymore. I mean, we're talking about, you know, I some of the dumb things that we see on the news, streaming out about people leaving the country if so-and-so gets elected and they leave, or people get divorced over the election. I mean, it's really stupid. Yeah. And what is unfortunate is that people, for some reason, people think that what they say makes a difference, even if it's stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially, you know, when it comes to politics, and well, right now there's a lot of riots, peaceful demonstrations. Isn't that ridiculous? We got politicians saying these are peaceful demonstrations, and behind them is vehicles burning. You know,
yeah.
Something I don't understand about that. And they can say that with a straight face. When are we going to wake up? And I don't know when it changed, but it seemed like you can say something that is not true, and it doesn't have an effect on your personality or your reputation or the shame of being caught in a lie.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem. Not the pride anymore, but it's the shame. We've lost the shame.
You know, it's the immediacy. I think what's changed a lot is just the immediacy of information. Mm-hmm. And because information can come out so quickly and so fast with social media, with the 24-hour news cycle, that now errors are more accepted. Like, oh, well, I quickly said that because, so there's no, you know, there's journalism is a thing of the past, really good reporting and research and journalism, because it's too slow. Sometimes you got to move a little slower to tell a story and to get all the facts, and everything moves so fast. But what now has gotten lost is now you can kind of BS your way through a story and speculate, and it's so opinion driven, mm-hmm. and then with the incessant promotion of the wrong narratives, or maybe they're correct narratives, but so many narratives, it's hard to weigh out what is up and what is down, and that is a problem.
It is, and you know, so you get a cause of some kind, right? Maybe a legitimate complaint that people have. I mean, there's certainly a room for a peaceful demonstration to let politicians know how they think, people think. But right now we've lost that. We got people showing up for riots, and they're not even sure. A peaceful demonstration that becomes a riot, and they're not even sure what they're there for.
Yeah. Remember our friend Joaquin said, "One riot, one ranger."
Yeah, that's right. Oh, God, what a guy! What a guy! I don't know what he would say right now, but if he was alive. But and I'm not talking about. Someone could guess what political party I support. It doesn't matter. This is not about that at all. But what it is I'll say this right now. I'm not impressed with either main party because there is no compromising. There is no compromising at all. You don't believe in 100% of what the party platform is, then you're against everything.
Right.
And that's why we can't get budgets passed. That's why we can't even any legislation that benefits people. We can't get it passed because the opposing side, whatever that happens to be, and we're talking about both sides, come up with something that says, "Oh, this would help the other party," and we're not going to do that.
Has your politics changed over the years since you started being a voter back in, you were voting in the 60s, and here we are in 2025. Your politics change, or are you pretty much just
me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
Well, my politics, when I first went in the Army, I voted, and because the military went out of their way to make sure you voted. Mm-hmm. They were very careful of not influencing your vote, but they did have an extra duty of an officer in a company, could be the voting officer, the voting NCO, to make sure everybody was able to go and vote. I probably, in my early days, voted based on what would benefit the Army, because that's what I was in. The early big supporters of the military were Democrats for pay raises and that sort of thing. Some of the real hardcore hawkish people were Democrats. That is a little opposite right now, the way I'm seeing it. At least one party or the other accuses the other one of being a hawk or whatever. And haven't heard that term lately, but hawkish was a big term in my day. But I would say I vote now more for common sense. I'm having a harder time finding a candidate at more local levels. I personally believe, I'll go out on a limb on this, and I don't, because I believe in standing for what you believe in. I think the current administration is more in tune for getting things done to protect people, safety of families and people, making criminals pay for being a criminal, protecting our borders from incursion. That's a job of the President of the United States. Probably the only job is to protect the safety of ensure the safety of the people. And that's where I lean personally. For whatever that's worth, there are some people that say, well, we all believe in that. But I don't know that they might all believe in it, but it comes in a different package. Yeah. And that's what bothers me. It bothers me a lot because someone could get up and say something that is a total lie, and we know it, and I'm not picking either party now. It could be both. Total lie or unsubstantiated, and taking it to the next level And before it's over with, they've created a storm, and we're rioting and we're doing this in the name of, just like this George Floyd thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man. In my opinion, George Floyd was a bad guy. He was a criminal. They all know it. All of a sudden now, at the time, and the cop that killed him wasn't real bright either.
Yeah.
You know, but to make George Floyd a symbol for everything that is good for the country. In other words, the law enforcement killed this individual. When it got out of hand, it certainly got out of hand, but a whole bunch of people died because of that.
Yeah.
And made named streets after him and all that stuff. It's ridiculous. I don't think most of the people believed that.
No, I mean the cop was just ignorant in what he did, and but it really set law enforcement back, and takes away from a lot of good things law enforcement did. And somebody would say that bettered law enforcement because it made them maybe more accountable. But I don't think that Derek Chauvin, I think that was the cop's name, is the example of all the great police work that gets done on a daily basis, day in, day out basis, you know.
I agree. It just got out of hand because of politicians.
And he's paying the price. He
screwed up.
He screwed up. He's done.
Mm-hmm. He screwed up.
Yeah.
But the point out of this whole thing is you got politics on one side of one party, and it's pretty well down the line, Republican, Democrat, on this issue, and both were making a case that this didn't mean much, right, other than we had a lot of insurrection, domestic violence, domestic terrorism in the states, and we're digging ourselves out of that hole just now. So what we've got here is, think about how many things that a politician comes up and says lately, Brad, that absolute is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard.
Yeah. A lot of times they just they have a platform, and they don't really know everything either. You know, they're not wise to every topic and every situation that the party stands for. So they're in a party and they practice partisanship, but they might not be, you know, well versed in all of the intricacies of everything, and then they spout off talking points. And I think they're fed talking points from the machine itself. And because a lot of times I'll hear even politicians that I might know from our own little area, representatives, whatever, and I'm like, well, how can that person be that well versed in all of these topics when they just got in 2 seconds ago? And it's because they're being fed the narratives.
Well,
you know,
and
the money.
Yeah, I don't know. That's right, money for re-election campaigns or whatever.
Right.
But I don't know how many. I can only hear some of the conversations about if a young Democrat or Republican said something, that he gets a phone call that says, "Hey, we don't do it that way." You know what?
Yeah, that probably doesn't happen. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think it does happen.
Tell me that again.
In other words, somebody does something, a young politician, and after they say it, somebody calls up and says, "Hey, we don't do it that way."
Oh yeah. I could agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I understand that a party's a party, but it ought to be the United States of America is who they really.
Well, what brand are you riding for?
What brand? There you go. We take great pride in ride for the brand. In other words, you ride for who's paying you, and who's paying you is a taxpayer. You don't owe anybody anything, to a degree. Once they put you in there, they should be putting you in there to make good decisions, solid decisions. And if they were, they'd be simple. It'd be simpler operation here if you did what's right.
Well, when we founded the Center for American Values, I remember our vision statement is kind of reflective of what you always said. It said, you know, the country is a series of families. which creates a series of communities, which then creates the country. And so doing the right thing by your family, by your community, by your country is kind of the sequence of events. And, and that's what representatives are in the government are supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're someone that I'm sure back in the early days of the Republic, hey, such and such, you're going to Washington, go see what they're talking about.
Yeah.
The representative, he probably didn't even want to go. He
Yeah.
just got sent up he got elected, so to speak, and went and represented the area. Now you get elected, you're famous. See?
That's right. And what's really worse, you expect it to be famous.
Yeah, you're famous.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're famous. They
No,
shouldn't be
no,
famous. They should
no.
just go do the job.
Yeah, it's almost like a pro athlete is very good at what they do, but then they're asked, like Dennis Rodman, he played basketball, probably a pretty good basketball player, but he went to North Korea, and now he's an expert on North Korea and stuff. I don't understand that. It's just like asking a Medal of Honor recipient what we should do on the defense of the United States when all you're doing was defending your piece of ground you were standing on and protecting your buddies.
Yeah.
It didn't make you an expert.
Right.
We're public figures, but we're not celebrities. But now celebrities have become public figures.
I saw the other night Bill Maher was picking on Sean Penn because Sean Penn's real critical of Trump being a dictator, but yet Sean Penn was palling around all over the world with dictators, so it was kind of calling him out on contradicting himself in that situation. And Bill Maher's a personality, a liberal personality on TV, but still calling out.
Well, I admire him a little bit lately because he's a liberal, supports liberal causes. That's opposite of a lot of people I know because that liberalism seems to me it ignores it puts it's hard to say this without making it sound like I'm really upside down on this, but to have do the most for your population is to have a strong country, and I believe the republic, if it is strong and it is healthy, then the people benefit. If you give it the foundation to the people and hope that whatever all these individual rights are makes us a strong country, I don't see how that could ever happen.
Yeah, socialism's no good.
No,
and communism is certainly no good. And so just like fascism's no good. But we've talked about that a million ways. Extreme politics is bad, just like extremism in all the terrorist organizations.
Absolutely, and Brad, I think we're a socialistic country
right now,
already.
Yeah, for sure.
And you got both political parties saying, "Oh no, we're a Democrat society, or democratic government," and one saying we're a democratic republic. We're not socialism. Neither one of them agree to that. There might be some people that are socialistic. There's some few politicians that claim to be there and want that. We're there. When you look at some of these programs that are developed to give to people, and you got the one side that absolutely is cost saving and against socialism, they're actually just arguing about how much to give these people instead of the amount that someone else proposed. So it's kind of like the oldest profession. We all know what that one was. And it doesn't matter if you charge $2 or $1,000, you're still a prostitute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so it doesn't matter. But so here we are. What's going to happen? When I turn on the, I don't have TV anymore. I don't listen to it. I listen to issues that come out on streamed out, and I keep track of things that way. I get tired of the programs that they're just designed to suck you in, mm-hmm. and you can't believe it. I have to listen to to 2 or 3 channels so I can get the right scoop on what someone just told me.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know if that's right. So
what do? You listen to radio, or you read the internet?
I use the internet.
You use the internet?
Yeah, stream programs, Fox News, CNN. I listen to both. You know, I think they both claim to be, one is conservative, one not. I hear something here and I understand it, I'll turn the other one on just to see what they're saying. And usually they're not even commenting on it, if it's opposed to what they believe in. They won't even discuss it.
And they're real good in their programming because, they preach to the choir. So if you hear what you want to hear, and you know what you're waiting to hear, then, you tend to like it a little more than if you hear something you don't like as much. But I guess that's another thing that does make America great with freedom and things, that you can have a difference of opinion and not have to have one thought process and this, that, and the other. But the problem is when you're getting force-fed things, and too many rules and things like that, is where government gets in the way of freedom. But the partisanship is apparent,
It's killing us.
Yeah.
It's killing us. When I see that someone has changed party, and they seem to do that when another party has control at the time, and lately we're seeing some Democrats switching to Republican, the party. I'm always impressed with that, because someone is, in theory, you think they're standing on their own principle, and we just can't do this anymore, and I'm going to change party. I don't know what that does to the constituents that voted for them. Maybe a lot of them just voted for the individual and what they stand for, not for the party.
That's probably how you should vote.
Absolutely, but I think we're almost. I don't think that's going to happen for a while. I don't know. I'm less government kind of person. Whenever a issue comes up about voting for more government, I'll be against it. I'm probably not the best candidate. The best example of how to do it. But if it's more government, I'm pretty well against it. I kind of like the rule that I don't know if it's happened, but Trump did say that before we get a new law, we got to get rid of 10. But he doesn't make laws.
Yeah.
He's just saying that. But
that's right, though.
Yeah, that's
right. That's right. No, that's right.
We got enough laws.
Doesn't mean it can happen.
No.
But to repeal them and to change them and all that, you just don't need that many rules and that many laws to be able to govern common sense.
Yeah, I think that's why this program is getting a little bit of legs, is because we look at things realistically, a common sense approach, and I always thought I might be a little strange. Maybe you're a little strange, but I think more people think like we do.
Yeah.
It ought to be common sense.
Oh, you're certainly strange, but
well,
no.
I don't wear it like a badge. It's just me. But when when you get 80 years old, you can get away with more stuff, I think.
I think not everything is to be taken as an agenda. People just have thoughts, and you can be wrong too. And the other problem with some of this partisanship is everybody that makes an opinion, or a lawmaker or whatever, a congressman, they're sure they're right, even if they're lying through their teeth. They just are selling that they are that they never make a mistake, they never say anything wrong, and that becomes a problem.
It becomes a real problem, because I believe most of them could pass a polygraph.
Probably not.
Because they could pass it.
Oh,
because they believe in it.
Yeah, well,
they believe in their own stuff.
Well, but they also sell. We talk about sellouts. They all become wealthy. Somehow they become wealthy, and I'm not sure how, but they're all wealthy, and so that's a problem.
I don't know how they do it either, Brad. We're talking about lots of money.
Yeah.
And a few of them that criticized the industrial complex or whatever and making money off of it, they're wealthy now too. Yeah. All of them.
I guess you can parlay your time served in the government and parlay it into contracts and into business, maybe. I'm sure some guys have done that.
They're wealthy while they're in office.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And maybe some of that is the campaign fund situation. If you raise $1 billion and that used to be an exaggeration, but I think now it's possible. $1 billion or many hundreds of million, and you have some left over, where does that go? It's supposed to go into your campaign fund.
Yeah, they can't take it, can they? They don't get it.
But they must live off of it some way. You know?
Or spend it with someone they
Well,
know.
I think we just had a senator go to jail. Didn't we have one just enroll into the big house somewhere?
Maybe.
I think we did, just like today or yesterday.
Yeah.
They're getting on to some of them. But, you know, the day of having a politician that is acceptable by all, or the majority, is almost history. It's just not going to happen.
Who do you think are some of the ones that have crossed over like that over the years that you recall?
That have crossed.
That have won over both sides. Like, I mean, Reagan obviously was a landslide type guy.
Reagan did, because wasn't he a Democrat originally?
I don't know what he was when he was a governor, but obviously he was a Republican.
Oh, he was Republican then too.
President,
but no,
he was famous before he ran, and so he had some people liked him.
Mm-hmm.
What about did Clinton cross over quite a bit? Did he? Because he won pretty big.
Well, Clinton actually was a balanced budget kind of guy. I think he did balance a budget. He also crossed over on the welfare deal, where it was what was it, don't work, don't eat, or something. That's crossing over.
Yeah.
And I think Trump will cross over quite a bit, because he doesn't seem to care with what people think about. He's doing what he says he's going to do. You might think this is a pro-Trump program. It isn't. I've got some good friends that absolutely can't stand him, but they probably can't stand him because they knew him when he was in New York, and he was kind of a New Yorker, you know, and is offensive to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he says things that make me cringe from time to time. You know, I mean, I voted for him. I mean,
you and the rest, half the nation.
Yeah, but certainly, he could do better. And with his delivery and how he handles himself. But
he's improved on how he handles himself. He looks more and more presidential, in my opinion. Yeah. Like when he left the G7 yesterday, he says, I'm going to call the National Security Council, and I've got to get back.
Yeah.
He didn't say, we're going to figure out how we're going to kick Iran's ass or something. He just let it out there.
Yeah.
You got to get back. That was pretty brilliant, I think. Maybe he didn't want to hang around the G7 guys anymore. I think he's that way too, because he wasn't a big fan of their organization.
And personally, I've always kind of liked him. I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, he had just written his book, and so I remember him back, early '90s, and whenever I was kind of doing real estate, and he had his book out, Art of the Deal, and so he's kind of someone that I've known of for years, so it's a little different for me,
Well, you're an entrepreneur, and I can see, and I like him for that too, but I can see your connection, because you're an entrepreneur, and you'd probably your dialogue would be a lot like his if you were president.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
I can relate to how he handles a microphone. There's no doubt.
And some of our folks in the room here would too.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, what is dangerous right now in our politics is, it seems that there's no filter, no control over anything. It's just what we can say and get away with, whether it's true or not. And maybe riding for the brand and the code of the West and cowboy ethics is getting outdated. But we've got some censorship going on, and then where we're filtering out for what our kids see on TV, but we don't filter anything out for the adults.
Yeah.
It's just, you can lie, cheat, and steal and get away with it, and you seem to be getting away with it.
Yeah.
Which isn't not healthy for a nation. And I've said before, some crisis or perceived crisis is what it's going to take to get us back together a little bit. After 9/11, the country was together. We were attacked.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, we got together. But then somehow they abused it, they being the politicians. We stayed in the war too long. We made people rich at the expense of soldiers and combatants. I believe that's an unforgivable. It's a crime.
What happened?
I mean, we prolonged the war just so, for whatever reason.
Oh.
We got all this stuff. Everything from plywood to whatever fuel got expensive because we got this war going on, and people making billions of dollars, companies, and that's all politics. They buy a politician, and lobbying is a dangerous thing. I don't know how you clean it up, but lobbying you're a registered criminal when you register as a lobbyist. You know?
Yeah.
It's okay if you're registered. See, that's a bureaucracy. That's where we've gone too far. It's okay to as long as you register and we know you're doing it. It's all right. No, that's a bunch of crap. I think we need to stand for what we believe in personally and pay the consequences. Right now, there's no consequences, not many, for doing the wrong thing. And when I listen to some of those politicians defending or going out of their way to bring back a criminal that we've sent back to their home country, this MS-13 guy, I think it was MS-13, we sent him back to his home country, Salvador, and now the politicians got in there and made him a George Floyd kind of deal. Why don't they pick somebody worth doing? But they picked this. They don't have good judgment. They picked this criminal element.
Yeah.
This guy, he was trafficking.
What is the appeal on that? I mean, what?
Why did they do it? They could have found somebody that was in the because deporting up to 20 million people it just can't happen. It's going to be hard to do because there's going to be mistakes. But I don't think they're deporting anybody that didn't come here illegally. But now, what I said, we're already socialistic. We're saying we're only going to get rid of the criminals, but the ones that came here illegally, we're going to keep them, right?
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be that way. Prioritize the criminals and get them out of there. That's what Trump said he was going to do. But now the other side, just to fight Trump, is going to fight the deportation of this guy, get him back at great expense, and the guy's going to be tried probably, and maybe sent to prison.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? No, I don't know.
Waste of money, waste of time.
Waste of money, but it's all about the politics.
Yeah, I don't know much about the inner workings of why somebody said he was. I think they're doing it on principle, maybe, because they figure if you can.
They being the Democrats.
Who brought the side that brought him back, thinking, okay, if you can do it to this one guy and it breaks this little rule, then it could happen over and over again. And so maybe even if everybody had agreed this guy's a bad guy, they might have said the method that you did it under doesn't follow some rule, and that's what comes down to too many damn laws.
There's too damn many laws.
You can figure out some loophole.
It ought to be what's right and wrong. It used to be the intent of the law was to do right. Now the intent of the law is to do what's legal. It used to be the same. What was legal and right were the same, but now legal technicality. Like when I knew we were going down a rat hole was when they come up with hate crime. To murder somebody, it's a hate crime. I guess maybe that takes it to the federal level or something. It's still illegal to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And so if they're not a hate crime, so it's just a murder. It was not a big deal. It has to be a hate crime.
Sounds like an upgrade.
Yeah, an upgrade. But I don't get it.
Yeah.
I really don't get it. And we need to get back to common sense approach. Maybe I'll sleep a little bit. I'm gonna get one of those things you got on your wrist to see how good a quality sleep I get. If that'll help me, I don't know. But I guess when you get older, you think about where we've gone, and when you're in 80 years, let's not count 80 years. Let's count about 63 years from the time I left high school. 63 years is a long time. So when you figure I left high school, 63 years was the turn of the century before. Mm-hmm. We were just finishing the Spanish-American War. And that seemed like really ancient history. And it's still ancient history, but I was involved. I was closer.
Yeah.
And so we've gone a long way. I don't know what it's going to take to get us back, but it's certainly not going to be the politicians. I don't know. We're scrambling to get a politician, people in office that aren't politicians, right?
Yeah, I don't think that ever happens. 'Cause I think regular people might run for office, but they become politicians, even if they start out well intended. I think that right now the machine eats them up, and chews them out. Term limits would be good because you at least you can't camp there forever. And
yeah, Brad, that term limit thing is one thing that I was never against, full term limits, because I always thought that there'd be some good ones we ought to keep around. I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
no, it's not worth it. It ought to be term limited, 2 years or 2 terms or whatever.
You go in at the beginning and you get your best ideas and everything you're going to know, and then later, it's just too easy when you're camping out on the job just to, well, we've always done it this way. Anybody that says we've always done it this way is not what you want.
They're a part of the problem. Yep. Now, senators, 6 years. I think 2 years is too short to be elected.
They're always campaigning.
Yeah, you're always campaigning. So the founding fathers were pretty good, but they never realized where we would be going because of communications and things like this, and that the purpose of our representatives was different than what it is now. Mm-hmm. It's to truly get in there and keep on going with what your predecessor has done. And now it seems, now I'm in, I can do whatever I want. I think maybe a longer term for our representatives, maybe a 6 years also, but then term limited to 1 or 2 or whatever. Just a big gone.
Why do you think they are 2 years?
Why was it 2 years?
Has it always been 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's always been 2 years. Maybe originally it wasn't.
Neither are term limited, right? Senators.
No, nobody's term limited. States now are. Some states, like for governor.
Is that all Joe Biden ever did, was be a politician?
Yeah, I think so.
He was a career politician.
Yeah, but some things he said he did, but they kind of proved he didn't. But because he was a politician forever.
Was Clinton a career politician?
Well, he's a lawyer, but that means he probably was looking to become a politician. I'm not sure who said this. One of our listeners could probably correct me, but I think it was President Nixon, who was a lawyer, who said lawyers make the worst presidents because lawyers have a tendency to do something and fix it later in court or whatever. Business people make the decision based on the performance and the anticipated consequences before they make the decision. That's why I like what Trump does. I mean, he might be off the rails once in a while. Like, I don't know, because he's not telling us everything. But it seems like he's handling he's doing what he said he was going to do. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like.
He's one of the few businessmen, right, that have run for president.
Yeah.
One of the few, say.
Yeah, a lot of them are lawyers. I don't know what that means. Lawyers don't seem to do that good of a job for us. I mean, they just keep getting away with what they can say. And like Clinton was famous for the word is, right? You know, we about at that time is when we started changing, telling the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a newspaper magazine article. They did an interview or survey in colleges about that time, and they determined that it's okay to lie to get what you need, what you think you need. It's okay.
Really?
I don't understand
That doesn't make any sense to
No,
me.
but I don't believe. You know, lying was something when my mother told, shame on you. That was terrible. Shame on you. And to tell, it took me a long time to even say, no, that's a lie. Because that's like fighting words.
Yeah.
And you had to have your facts together before you called somebody a liar, because that's what else could you, what worse thing could you call somebody a liar?
With all the tech and everything nowadays, it's hard to lie. Surveillance and recordings.
Yeah, but they still do it. And
I know, but it's getting harder.
Yeah, but they somehow it doesn't bother them to get caught in a lie.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
That's the problem.
It's crazy. It's getting
But
tougher.
so I don't know if we got anywhere on this episode, but partisanship is killing us. We've got to see. I'll put this in this perspective a little bit. Partisanship is allowing us to survive because we're all in a comfort zone. I mean, it's not hurting us individually too bad. But I bet in Ukraine or in Israel right now, there's not a lot of partisanship going on there. They're all in it together for survival. I hope we never have to get to that situation, but that would be one thing that would pull us together. And that's another 9/11, and I do not want it. The rest of the world saw that we could come together, and we're a very formidable force when we're together. Right now we're weak because we're divided. I'd like to see a leader be able to bring us back together. And some of those on an opposing side have the courtesy or the fortitude or whatever to agree with somebody, like in the old days. When I went to Washington, received this Medal of Honor, and after the ceremony, we had Governor Love was there and a senator from Colorado, took me around to the House and the Senate chambers to show me off, right, to all of his colleagues, Democrat or Republican. I've never forgotten that. Now I don't think they do it. I think they just go to their own party and say, look at my guy. They went to all of them, and I've left there thinking that this is really special. Now it's just like what you sign on to, and it bothers me a lot, and I don't know where we're going to go. I think we've got to do a lot more work to convince these people. And that's why the Center for American Values is so important, because we're apolitical. And a lot of people think we're conservative. We have conservative values, but there's nothing wrong with honor, integrity, and patriotism. No. Both political parties should be striving for that.
Those are tough words to live by.
Yeah.
Well,
they're harder to die by.
DrewDixPodcast.com. You can subscribe to our channel. Thanks for listening today. Go to AmericanValueCenter.org. Look at our merchandise. Make a donation to the center. It really helps us keep our programs going. And certainly DrewDixPodcast.com, where we can field your questions and you can tell us how dumb we are or how smart we are or whatever you want to tell us. We don't get our feelings hurt.
Well, you know, Brad, I think a lot of people think the way they do. And, you know, common sense is the answer. Ben Franklin was a common sense guy. I think, was it Ben Franklin that says that we're all born ignorant? I think it was.
Yeah.
We are. That's a true statement. Now you call somebody ignorant and they take offense to it. But it's up to everybody to research what's right and wrong, speak with the facts, and not prove your ignorance by just repeating what someone else says without checking it out. And to do so is certainly tolerating poor behavior. So just remember, tolerance is a character flaw.
Just because no one knows doesn't mean it isn't true.